Well, up to now, we've pretty well covered the Hollywood scene as it lived and worked and played during a very lush and carefree period. Roughly that quarter of a century of miraculous prosperity between the arrival of sound pictures and the threat of the television age. Of course, I didn't take all these shots, and I may have mixed up some of the times and places, but after all, it's very difficult to remember everything that happened over that long a period. But I'm giving you the same treatment I gave my folks. I was never one to spoil a good story by the lack of a few facts. Naturally, my camera couldn't capture all that was happening throughout the years, so during the 12 months that it took me to prepare this show, I went through thousands of feet of home movies from the personal collections of these stars here in Hollywood. And this is as good a time as any to express my appreciation to all these friends for permitting me to add some of their exclusive film to my own personal collection. Film which obviously was only intended to be shown within the confines of their own living rooms for the amusement of their family and friends. And today, with Hollywood using the whole world for location, there's plenty of opportunity for these camera buffs to get very unusual pictures. Here's a fellow who had a most interesting experience in Africa, Eddie Albert. You are now going down the Ogawi River in French Equatorial Africa. Those slow-moving crocodiles are very deceptive. They can move much faster than you think, especially on dry land. Miles from civilization in a little settlement called Gabon is a small jungle hospital run by one of the most dedicated men of our time, Dr. Albert Swatizer. I sure envy Eddie. What a great picture to hand down to your grandchildren. He can also tell them about the practice he got as a jungle babysitter. In the last year or so, I've taken a couple of overseas trips myself, but to places where the natives were a little more sophisticated. There's a fellow who likes to babysit, but he likes his babes a little older. That's Bob Cummings. I didn't do so bad with the native girls myself. But when Cummings went out for that surfing stuff, I went back to shooting pictures. He's pretty good, too. This was taken from an outrigger. Just to show you how the jet age has shrunk the world to a sleeper jump, one morning I took this picture of Bob riding a surfboard off Diamond Head. And 14 hours later, I took this picture of him riding a rickshaw in Hong Kong. Hours from there in Cairo, I took a picture of another Bob, Taylor, riding a camel. This picture was taken in St. Mark's Square in Venice. That's Jean Crane. There's only one thing to do in this town. A ride in a gondola, soft music, and a pretty girl. Man, this is the life. Don't get excited. There's someone else in the boat. Her husband, Paul Brinkman. It was winter when we hit merry old England, and of all the unlikely people to meet at the Tower of London, especially where Anne Boleyn had throat trouble, was this fella, Pat Boone. If there's any doubt that people around the world still regard Hollywood stars as a glamour symbol, they should have been with me in Nice this past summer. Hundreds of people lined the streets and cars were locked bumper to bumper watching Glenn Ford and Hope Lang shoot a picture called The Grand Duke and Mr. Pym. This next location shot was taken on the shores of the Mediterranean, halfway between Nice and Monte Carlo. They did a very interesting thing the day I was there. They were just about to shoot a scene where Glenn had to drive this sports car along the Moyer-Corniche Road at a speed of 110 miles an hour. Now, usually for the close-up of actors in an action scene like this, they take a process shot in the studio later on. But instead, they had that special camera that you see strapped on the hood of the car, and it was rigged up to start rolling when Glenn hit 90. Another very interesting location was in West Berlin. That's Bill Holden and his director, George Seaton, making the counterfeit traitor in the actual locale of this true life story.